once again temporarily, Coffee with Mark. Hope everybody had a wonderful weekend. If you are in the southern part of Texas, I hope you're staying as dry as possible. It's looks like it's been pretty crazy down there, and I hope everybody who is in that part of the country who joins us is okay and hasn't experienced too much damage considering. So Markus is not joining us today because he's actually in transition back to Texas after spending some time in Singapore last week. It's a long flight, and he touched base with me yesterday saying that he's going to be flying to San Francisco this morning and then heading back to Austin a little bit later. So he asked if I can help out one more time, and I said sure, because I think these Coffee with Markus or Mark, depending on the guy, are a lot of fun, and it seems like everybody loves them. So we'll just keep doing them and have fun, enjoy a little coffee in the morning before markets get going. So let's take a look here at what took place last week and kind of go from there. We see that the S&P 500 here, let me go to a weekly chart. We see that after some of the volatility, we see that this week or the last couple of weeks compared to what we had before, slightly bigger ranges, and we had this slide, 2-week slide in the S&P last week, a little bounce finishing higher. The Dow, very similar picture after making all-time highs. We're retreating after 2 weeks, and then last week making another push higher. And the NASDAQ, after 4 straight consecutive losing weeks, last week we were able to finish the week higher and get back into the ranges that we've had the last couple of weeks and not extend those losses. So markets up last week and back in positive territory for the week. It looked like overnight things were going to be heading south. Here we have a chart of the E-mini S&P futures contract, and so here we have the day separation with this dotted line. We see that there was some selling overnight, made session lows around 24.36, and now we're rallying into the U.S. Open. So we're going to see a positive start here in U.S. markets at the U.S. Open at 9:30 Eastern time. It looks like we also have a nice run up in the NASDAQ here. This is the E-mini NASDAQ chart, and so after making some lows overnight, seeing a little run up into the open here. Now, the focus this week, let's go ahead and let's bring up the economic calendar here. So if we take a look at the economic calendar, we see that Monday, we only have these 2 low impact reports that were released at 8:30 a.m., goods, trade balance, preliminary wholesale inventories. Again, if you've been joining us with Coffee with Markus, we like this calendar because it's so easy to use, and those the importance scale that Forex Factory provides seems to be spot on. And so the yellow impact means low impact, orange means medium impact, and the red means high impact. And that coding is for the US dollar since it's a currency website, but it seems to apply very nicely to stocks and any US markets that we might be trading as well. So the yellow impact reports today, nothing to worry about. Tomorrow we have another yellow impact report at 9, but a red high impact report would be consumer confidence at 10 p.m. If we look ahead at Wednesday, we have ADP non-farm employment change and preliminary GDP at 8:15 and 8:30 there. We have an FOMC member speaking at 9:15. Comments from Fed Chair Janet Yellen will be most significant, and that's why this is a medium impact rather than a high impact. We have crude oil inventories at 10:30 on Wednesday, and then on Thursday we see the next high impact report will be unemployment claims at 8:30. We have core PCE price index personal spending at the same time. Chicago PMI sometimes is a wild card. This is at 9:45 a.m. and we have pending home sales at 10 a.m., medium impact reports. But the real focus this week, as far as the economic calendar goes, is going to be Friday, and these guys here at 8:30. These three reports are known as a jobs report. We have average hourly earnings, we have non-farm employment numbers, we have the unemployment rate, and this is all set to be released at 8:30. This is a jobs report for the previous month. So that's the real focus. Jobs report is a significant report for the week, but also the month, and so that's kind of the real focus here for the week, or the biggie, so to speak. We also see that ISM Manufacturing PMI is going to be released at 10 a.m. on Friday. And we're also heading into a 3-day weekend. So it will be interesting to see exactly how the week goes, because sometimes traders like to take a little extra time off. But with a significant report Friday morning before a 3-day weekend, people are definitely going to be sticking around to keep an eye on that one. But then after the reaction, it might be a little slow on Friday, but we'll just have to see how that plays out. So that's what's in store for us for the week, kind of where things are sitting right now. And with the hurricane, there's definitely all eyes on Texas. It sounds like it could be equal to the damage that was experienced with Hurricane Katrina, which was the largest natural disaster as far as expense goes. So people are keeping an eye on Texas just to make sure everybody's okay, but also seeing what type of damage will need to be addressed once everything clears up. Also, huge oil and refinery state. So people are keeping an eye on refiners, wondering how that's going to impact things there. Crude oil right now is down a little bit, but natural gas, here we could bring up, not natural gas, I'm sorry, gasoline. We could bring this up. RB is a symbol if you're trading futures. You could bring up RBOB gasoline here, and we see that it's up 3% today, and that's because with the refinery shutdown or the impact of the hurricane, there isn't going to be as much refining taking place, and so gasoline futures are higher. Now, with crude oil, why would crude oil be down? Well, crude oil is used to refine, and that refining process gives you gasoline, heating oil, and diesel. And it takes about 3 barrels of crude oil to make 2 barrels of unleaded gasoline. At least that's my understanding. So if there isn't the same demand for crude oil because the refiners can't refine crude oil and turn it into gasoline, then there isn't as much demand for crude oil, but then there's higher demand for gasoline. And so that's why right now heading into the open, you see that crude oil is down, but gasoline is up. So it'll be interesting to see how these commodities are affected by the hurricane. And if you want to, if you're not trading futures, let me bring up the PowerX analyzer here. If you're not trading futures and you want to keep an eye on crude oil, or you want to keep an eye on gasoline, USO would be the United States Oil Fund, and the symbol is USO, and you could bring this up. This tracks crude oil. And for gasoline, you could bring up UGA, which is the United States Gasoline Fund. And so this would be a way to track gasoline. And it's kind of interesting to see that the PowerX analyzer going into today's session, not taking any of today's intraday data, but going into today's session, there's a sell signal for USO. And for gasoline, based on what we see Friday, there's a buy signal for gasoline. Now, looking at these two ETFs here, funds, it looks to me, if I'm analyzing the performance on this one, I know Markus in previous Coffee with Markus sessions, he's covered how to find the best stocks to trade, and there are these certain performance criteria that we like to look for. We look at stocks that aren't too gappy. We like to see stocks that are trending nicely, and then with the PowerX analyzer, we want to see that it actually has been a nice trend, or that based on the signals, the performance has been nice, that it's performed to our expectations. And as technical analysts, we believe that patterns repeat. And so if we do see that there are nice trends and nice opportunities, and that has resulted in nice performance, then there's a tendency for that to continue with a nice trending stock. Now, looking at USO, I mean, these numbers are not ideal. I think that just from a trading perspective, if someone were to ask me, why don't you trade USO? Well, I would rather run the scanner each night, find new opportunities that way, and look for something that has performed nicer over the last year. The UGA symbol, so this tracking gasoline, this actually, even though it falls below that 60% ROI that we like to shoot for the stocks that we like to pull up for PowerX, you have a pretty nice risk reward on this one. A $3.89 target, $1.43 stop loss. You have a 42.5% ROI based on the signals that have occurred for this year. You have 9 wins, 6 losses, 60% winning percentage, profit factor of 4.59. So like these numbers are pretty solid. The ROI is below the threshold we normally look for when we're running the scanner, but these numbers look pretty good here. So again, going into this week, the real focus or biggie is going to be the jobs report on Friday. Of course, everybody's still keeping an eye on politics and specifically tax reform, and if we're going to get some news on that, with that being the real next push and thing that traders are really interested in, because they're hoping that tax reform can keep this rally going, that we could get a push back up to all-time highs and beyond. And then for the week, the focus is really also on Texas and how that can affect the industries there, specifically the refining industry and gasoline. So it's going to be an interesting week. It looks like we're off to a good start today, which is always nice to see stocks higher. And it looks like commodities are moving because of the big hurricane there in Texas. Now, I'll see here if we have any questions that popped up. And I could also, you know what, I'll do this. Just a quick recap of, because I know that this is sometimes, let's say, oil versus gasoline. Because this doesn't always make sense to everybody, where people will see that crude oil's dropped, and then they think that when they go to their gas station that gas should also be significantly lower. And so although they're tied together, there's not this direct correlation between the two, right? If there's a huge drop in oil, there's a chance that the gasoline can be cheaper, just like if there's a huge increase in oil, gasoline could increase, but there's not this direct correlation between the two because of how it's derived. So with oil, you can refine it to get gasoline, heating oil, and diesel. And so a hurricane situation is most likely going to affect gasoline because it takes 3 barrels of crude oil to refine down to 2 barrels of gasoline. So if refiners can't refine crude oil is not being used. There's less demand for crude oil, and then gas can go up because there's more demand for gas. So gas prices can go up if the refining process is not being done like normal. And then for futures traders, if you want to look at the underlying markets that would track these two commodities, you could look at CL for crude oil, and you could look at RB for RBOB gasoline. For stock traders, if you want to keep an eye on things, you can look at USO, which is the United States Oil Fund, and you can look at I think it's UGA, but I want to make sure I have it right. Yeah, UGA. UGA, which is the United States Gasoline Fund. So if you want to keep an eye on some of these commodities, there you go. I think that in general, crude oil is a great commodity to day trade. If you're a day trader and being aware of these two funds, some decent funds to keep an eye on if you are a stock trader. Okay, so that's pretty much it to kick off the week. I know we did some good sessions last week, and we covered some day trading. We covered 3 things that will improve your trading right away. But this week, just wanted to kick off the week, take a review of what happened last week and what traders are focused on today, and present a few ideas to consider based on the movement that we have in commodities. And you know what? While we're here, I'm going to do one more thing. Let's put in a binary options trade. So we just had a signal trigger in binary options. And let me slide over. Well, I'll do 2 things. So this is our insider signal table that we use to provide and update binary option signals for anybody who is a lifetime member of Rockwell Trading or has our binary options signal service. And we just saw that crude oil, based on these signals, crude oil is now at 47.39.38, and the trigger price to have a sell signal in crude oil was 47.39. So we up this whenever that happens to show triggered, and the signal is to sell the 48 strike at 37 or lower. So I could bring up the Nadex platform. Bring this up. I'm going to slide this over here. But what we want to do is we want to sell crude oil. Oh, let's log in. This is the account that we always place a trade based on every single signal. Markus and I both trade binaries, but we put a 1 contract trade for every signal to track the signals for the service. So we want to sell the 48 strike at 37. Right now, the bid's at 5, the offer's at 8.75. So we want to sell at 37, but the bid and offer are much lower. So we're not going to get filled at this on this trade right away. But what we'll do is we'll keep this in the market for the session because we are willing to sell at 37 based on the probabilities. The probability that if triggered, this market will close lower today is 73% based on the signals that we've had for the last year. So with a 73% probability, I'm fine selling at 37, trying to make 37 bucks, and in this case, risking 63. But I want to sell at 37 or better. with that order in the market, it's acting as a limit order. And then if the market does pop up a little bit, we do have an opportunity to get filled. But based on the signals and the probability, we believe that right now, based on how this market has moved today, crude oil will close below $48 a barrel. So that's what we do when we are trading our binary options, and we'll hold that until the end of the day. If it doesn't trigger or the order isn't filled, it gets canceled automatically at the end of the day. If we get into the trade, then we hold it to expiration. So the way that we trade binary options, we're always holding until expiration, letting it expire. So we got a little crude oil trade in today. If we look at the signals here for today, crude oil triggered, gold triggered. With gold, we were looking to buy at 1297.5, and we wanted to buy at 75 or high or lower, excuse me. With silver, it also triggered. We wanted to buy the 17 strike. We believe that it will close above 17 today, and we wanted to buy at 67 or lower. We have sell signals for ES, NQ, and YM, so the E-mini S&P, the NASDAQ, and the Dow. But these have not triggered. The triggered is an important concept. And right now, with those markets higher, since they have not triggered, we do not want to be sellers. So if there is a reversal today and we head south, they might trigger, and we can place trades. But if they do not reverse and we just have this gap higher, we could look at the S&P daily chart. Here we see that the S&P is gapped higher. So because it's gapped higher, there's no continuation of this trend at this point. So we do not want to be a seller, but if we move through the trigger price, then we do want to be a seller. We'll keep an eye on that and monitor it for the day. And for our binary option signals, guys, we will send out alerts when that takes place. All right, well, I think we'll leave it at that for today. Thank you for joining me with our Coffee with Mark morning gathering. I hope that you enjoyed things. I had fun going over the calendar, looking at where things stand, and talking a little bit about crude oil and also gasoline, and getting in a binary options trade there. So if you're totally new to binary options, definitely take a look at the archived recordings of the Coffee with Markus, because I do believe he has a session dedicated to binaries early on. It might have been the second one that he did. Binaries are great. I think that you could trade them alone, but they also make a great complement to day trading futures or swing trading stocks and an option. So I highly encourage traders to check out binaries if they haven't done it before. The one thing I can't stress enough, though, is only use Nadex. Nadex is based in Chicago, and they are a regulated exchange by the CFTC, and I have heard way too many horror stories from traders who decided not to use Nadex in a regulated exchange to trade binary options, who have been screwed out of money, to put it bluntly. So there are many overseas binary options outfits that really just don't operate in a legitimate way, and it's either difficult to get money out or impossible when you are getting money out, or they entice you by bonuses. If you deposit $1,000, we'll give you $1,000 to play with, and then you're playing with the money, and then you find out that you have to take 1,000 trades before you're ever eligible for that money, or whatever it might be. But they set it up so it's so enticing to get set up with an account overseas. But then the reality is that very few people ever get access to that money, because they put so many restrictions on what you need to do in order to finally be eligible. And their guess is that by the time that you take all of those trades, you're going to lose it anyway. So they're going to keep your money one way or another. With Nadex, they don't care if you make money or win money. Of course, everybody wants you to make money, but Nadex, because you're trading through an exchange, they make a small commission on the trades that you are placing. So they have no interest in whether you're making money or losing money, and that's the difference between Nadex and a broker overseas, because they do have an interest in you losing money. They want you to lose. And that's never a good situation, in my opinion, when you are trying to make transactions through a broker. If your broker wants you to lose, that's probably not the best situation. So bottom line, if you are interested in binary, stick with Nadex. I put this link up on this chart because this link will take you to a page to set up a binary options demo account if you are interested. So rockwooltrading.com/Nadex. All right, well, that's going to do it for this coffee with Mark. Markus should be back tomorrow, so have fun working with him tomorrow, and have a great trading day and a great trading week. And I'll pop in from time to time and check out you guys later. Take care, everybody.